Greetings. Welcome to the Captive Desk. Please join me in welcoming Ember to the Captive Desk.
Howdy, howdy, folks.
You may have seen Ember diving headfirst into the debate scene on Modern Day Debate, teaming up with Mark Reed to take on opponents against such things like evolution and flat Earth. Ember is also a frequent guest on Mark's channel, as well as many others, too many to mention, including now at the Captive Desk.
Mm-hmm.
Ember has a YouTube channel aptly named Ember at Better Than Ember, where you can find more than 180 videos with over 95,000 views on a wide range of topics being addressed from social issues to religions to pseudoscience debunking and more. From the description, Ember, any all, is a proponent of science, equality, including LGBT rights, freedom, including bodily autonomy, and reason. They oppose oppressive, repressive, and regressive ideologies, like but not limited to fundamentalist Christianity and Christian nationalism. They are an atheist because while there may be things in the world science has yet to explain, they have found no good reason to conclude a God is behind any of it, let alone any specific God. If you believe what's real matters, if you want to help build a world with more joy and less suffering, if you're driven to learn and think and create, they welcome you over there. You can also find more Ember at www.betterthanreligion.com, as well as on Discord. And if you would like to help support the channel, there's also Ember's Patreon, Better Than Religion, and you can find the links for all those in the description below. Ember also enjoys having guests on to discuss many different things and a bit about themselves too. And so do I. So today, it's Ember's turn to join the captive desk in some friendly discourse and share with us a bit about themselves. Ember, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by.
Howdy, howdy. It's good to finally get over here. We've been talking about doing this for a while now.
It's always great to have a guest at the captive desk. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate your time. So, before we talk about your YouTube adventures and other internet adventures, I like to step back a little bit, find out a little about yourself. Could you tell us way back, were you raised in a religious environment? Were you in a religious family?
Kinda yes, kinda no. So my parents didn't really disclose their religion until my brother and I were old enough to have already made up our own minds about things. But my parents weren't really around all that much. My grandmother lived with us when we were little, and she was technically she was Catholic, but we never went to a Catholic church. But that's neither here nor there. She kept trying to bring me to churches, but I was one of those annoying little kids who kept asking questions, and then the pastors would keep asking her not to bring me back. So it never really stuck.
And then what about friends and other family? Did you go to Bible camps or Bible studies or the little macaroni classes in the summer or anything like that?
No, not really. I always wanted to go to a summer camp, but never managed to pull that off either. My mother was, while she wasn't around a lot, she was a little overprotective. Well, I suppose in fairness, I was supposed to take a student ambassador trip to Ireland somewhere in middle school, and then the bombings in Belfast happened again, and she was like, nope, nope, trip's off. I don't know if that's really overprotective, if there's actual bombs going off in one of the places your kid is supposed to go. But no, nothing like a Bible camp or anything. I don't even know if they offer those around here. But there was a lot of pressure from other kids in schools and such. My school had a program where you could get out of school for half the day every Wednesday to go to church school. And so every other kid in every class I was in just left for half of the day on Wednesday. And they were constantly, oh, you should come with us. You should come check it out. You learn about how you're a horrible person and a sinner and how you can do better. And I'm like, no, 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 thanks. Occasionally the teachers, I don't think they were trying to push religion so much as the fact that I was the only kid still there, and they wanted to like go to the teachers lounge or grade papers or whatever it is they do, but they couldn't because they had one kid still in the classroom.
Dang it, that Ember,
Hmm.
the little heathen boys sitting there.
Hmm.
So I take it though, generally though, everybody around though was pretty much religious then. It
Oh
was
yeah.
a small town type thing, or
Yeah, officially it was a city, but the population's like 14,000, so it's, barely.
and what else did you do in school? Did you partake in any activities or sports or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I was one of those crazy people who did everything. Sports stuff. I was on all three flavors of track team, indoor, outdoor, etc. Soccer when it was available. Um, I think that was it for sports, but I also did drama club, Future Business Leaders of America, local community theaters, both of them. Um, Shoot, Science Olympiad, like anything that was available, I wanted to do it.
Oh, that's good. That's cool. Anything you excelled at?
Mm, Probably the Science Olympiad was my best thing overall. We ended up going to states the year after I joined the A team. So being a small school, we had two teams, but only one could qualify to go to states, and we ended up taking gold medals in all three of my events there. So that's probably the best out of all of those things. Though you don't really get medals and stuff for like community theater productions, but it's hard to rate those.
What about outside of school? You have hobbies, pets, anything like that?
Well, grew up on a farm, so you could say I had a
Mm,
whole lot of pets.
okay.
Chickens and geese and pigs and goats and emus and peafowl and all sorts of things. The agriculture side of the farm, that didn't work so well because like we'd try to grow radishes and I'd eat all the radishes, and we'd try to grow beans, and I'd eat all the beans. The wildlife never had a chance.
So you got a lot of fresh air and nature and everything growing up then?
Oh yeah, I was outside much more often than inside.
Did you have a creek to play in?
Not
No creek?
really. No, there was a river not far away, but basically across the road. But all the properties across the road were all rich people's houses, so we couldn't actually get to the river. C'est la vie. Neighbor had a lake, but they had cows, and cows make the lake stinky.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talk about with their ponds, they let the ducks and the geese in, and then it's like it's all messy in there, and it's like, well, yeah, what did you think was going to happen?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, going to, did you go on to further education then?
Oh yeah. I was one of those people who aspired to grab as many pieces of paper to qualify for things as possible. I got sold on that whole lifelong learner thing really early on. Unfortunately, it turns out there's a cap on the amount of student loans you can take, which I didn't find out until I hit it. Whoops. But yeah, I did a whole bunch of stuff. I actually finished. So weirdly, even though I wasn't religious, I did get involved with a church, the Universal Life Church. That's a whole long story, and I finished my first seminary program before I graduated high school. So I didn't yet have a high school diploma, and I had a Doctor of Divinity diploma. Although those don't mean much because theological degrees, but it was still amusing to me.
Well, so how did that happen? Was it just a personal interest, or?
Well, through most of high school, I was trying to. I blame Michael Straczynski for this, the guy who was behind Babylon 5. He put this idea in my head in one of the final episodes. He had a priest type character who was actually a secret agent for the aliens and whatever. Long story. Anyway, he says, faith and reason are like a pair of shoes. You you do good with one, but you get a lot farther with both. And that resonated with me for a long time. So I was trying to work out a way to make the concept of faith work with science. And the best I could come up with back in high school was that if you think of the soul in an Aristotelian sense, this an ineffable energy that corresponds with your body, and when you believe in something, a god, a spirit, what have you, a little bit of that energy gets devoted to the idea of that god. And if 100 people believed, and even though it's only a little bit of energy from each person, you end up with a big ball of energy that is that spirit or God or what have you. So it has the power to affect the material world because of the belief of the faithful, but it doesn't actually have a body. That sounded a lot like a description of a God to me. And if you have 1 billion followers, then you've got a whole lot of ability to affect the material world. So I wrote that up as a paper, published it on the internet, and the Universal Life Church got in touch with me and was like, we have this philosophy that all religions are kind of true. They all have seeds of truth, and if a person decides they're worth believing in, then they're worth believing in to that person. It's sort of like a individual rights kind of thing. And we came across this paper you published, and it seems like you're on the same page as us. We wonder if you would like to be involved with our organization. Now, they're one of those organizations where literally anybody can go sign up. You could go to ulc.org right now and go get ordained if you wanted to. But that's sort of the point, is if it's a thing that you believe in enough that you want to do, you should be able to do it. So it seemed like a good idea at the time to me.
Only if they would ordain me in Bigfoot, maybe I would consider getting a piece of paper.
I mean, you can do whatever tradition you're into. I know there's ways to become a dudist priest from the Big Lebowski tradition, but
Mhm.
I don't know what those ways are. But you could also do that through the ULC, or become a Satanist priest, or there are so many Wiccan high priests. That's a whole other thing. I got involved with Wicca shortly after high school because I was looking for something like more nature, more in tune with the world, some trying to make it make sense. And so I got involved with Wicca, and then I met all these people who were high priests that had been practicing for all of 6 weeks. Um, I discovered the term fluffy bunny fairly quickly, and that was a big turnoff. But I thought there was more to it, so I started looking into like the history, the prehistory, I suppose you might say, and trying to get all this assorted stuff. So I basically was a neo pagan for a while, but I don't know. I still never really found anything more than superstition and coincidence. Like with a lot of Wicca and neo pagans, people get convinced by magic of some kind, and I have seen some weird shit that I can't explain. Like I had a roommate who he believed he could control fire with his mind, and you could light a candle in a closed room, all the windows and doors closed, and he could stand across the room and go like this, and the candle flame would go up like 6 inches and then start to wiggle. It was weird, but the fact I can't explain it doesn't mean it was a fucking god.
Yeah, I had when I was a teenager, I was into a lot of the stuff, the ancient aliens and Nostradamus, and any of the stuff I could get a hold of that was just far out, and actually looking at what the Bible actually says, and did a lot of reading. And yeah, that I think the more you look into things, the more you see the similarities,
Hmm.
and then you also see that. it loses the magic once you start, picking it apart a little bit. And then speaking of magic, I also like doing a little bit of magic when I was a kid. We had a magic shop nearby. I was always there buying tricks. And I tell people, I think that's a lot too. When there's still people today that get terrified and think some of these magic tricks are actually real. And I think if you know the trick, you can never unsee the magic again.
Yeah, yeah, that's I very much relate to that. I spent most of my summers in the local Renaissance Festival. They were only open on weekends, but I was there every day I could be. And growing up, it was magical. There was music all over the place and people in these marvelous outfits. It was like freaking time traveling, except for, a few little things. Like if you got a soda, you could see the soda machine in the back that they got the soda from. But as I got older and I got to know the people who worked there, and I got to see behind the curtain a little bit, like they'd talk to me like an equal rather than like a patron. And I'd be like, okay, this is what's going on over here. This was, in some ways, it was kind of cool because on the one hand, you get to see how the donuts are made, and it like gives you that special knowledge, that sort of secret knowledge that you're not technically supposed to have. Only the people work there are supposed to have. But on the flip side, it diminished that sense of magic about it because it became more and more real and like this is all just a show people are putting on, which is true, but disillusioning.
So you were doing a lot of searching. Did you find anything? Did you find faith? Did you have an experience or anything?
Well, I guess it depends on what you mean by experience. I mean, I've had some things happen. I guess probably one of two things come to mind. I have had a near death experience, but the fact that it's nothing like I've heard anybody else describe tells me that they're probably a phenomenon of the human brain rather than something supernatural. Like people say, oh, everybody sees the light at the end of the tunnel or experiences floating over their body or whatever. The fact they all experience the same thing means there must be something real about it. But I didn't experience the same thing. So it seems to me that the people who do all experience the same thing, they got the idea from hearing other people's stories or something. I can't fully explain it, but at the same time, if there were something to it, you'd think we would all see the same thing. I also had a vision once. And this was when I was trying, after I noticed that there was so much similarity between the different religions. And I was trying to like piece things together to try to get back to the root of the original religion from which they all began to evolve or whatever. And it turns out there is no such thing. Humans have just always been superstitious, and different tribes came up with different things. It wasn't like there was one group that had ancestor worship and then started to add in animism, and like all of a sudden every spirit or every river has a spirit, every tree has a spirit. No, every group of humans came up with it simultaneously, or bit by bit, I suppose is a better way to look at it. But I was trying to get back to the original religion. And while I was working on that, I had a vision. And it was this little particle of something, of matter, of who knows what. And it poofed, it blew up like a popcorn, but way, way bigger. And within this particle, there were lots of more solid bits, and they expanded and grew, and the most dense ones became the earth, and the medium dense ones became the sea, and the lightest ones floated up above and became the sky. And that was the birth of the first three elements, the earth and the sea and the sky. And they existed for ages and ages and ages, and eventually they became aware and started to gain control of their powers, their domains, if you will, much like a human child would. As you're born, you don't know how to do anything, but then you start to figure out how to wiggle your fingers and focus your eyeballs and that sort of stuff. And then life started. Life started in the ocean, and the ocean nurtured it, but also pushed it, and everything got weird. The Cambrian explosion, we'd call it today, and life forms were eating each other, survival of the fittest, and eventually those forces pushed them up onto land, and land also nurtured them and strengthened them. TLDR. Eventually, we get to the point where some of the creatures start to realize that curiosity, imagination, the search for truth is itself valuable as a survival tool. And the god of the sky, who had no creatures, who had no people, you might say, but saw everything, decided to reach out to these young creatures called humans, and so sent a lightning bolt to create a fire. And that's fire. It's not an element the same way the other three were. It's a bridge between the physical and the divine. And that started like I guess you'd call it a priesthood kind of thing. People who tried to study the metaphysics in order to bring more and more knowledge into our understanding of what we now call physics and science through that connection with the divine. It was a fun vision.
It's very interesting.
I wrote it up like a gospel, not in King James speech style. That's horrible, but
I was going to ask if you wrote it up.
Mm-hmm. Sure did.
So you really you were on a search then. You just maybe didn't know which path to take, and you were just trying different ones, would you say?
Yeah. That's broadly speaking, overall, it was a search for truth, like what's true enough that it holds up. I was also very much into science, as I'm sure you can imagine, and I understood that the fundamental key to doing science is to not just establish the best theory you can, the best hypothesis that explains as much of the observable world as we can, but also to try to knock that idea down with everything you can think of. And that was the problem. Every religion, for lack of a better term, I came to, it seemed interesting at first. Some of them seemed better than others, but none of them could withstand the knocking down part.
And what about the science, though? Did the science stand out any differently then?
To a larger extent. I mean, it helped that there were more people working on things, but I was a big skeptic of the Big Bang Theory for a very long time because it struck me a lot like a religion. I said, I see the same flaws. I see people championing this cause with just a big bunch of underlying assumptions and basically faith in the idea. But what really annoyed me is that if you dared to question, just like with the churches when I was little, if you dared to ask questions, you would be shouted down and asked to leave. And I was like, this doesn't seem like science to me. These guys are priests in lab coat vestments, you know? And so I wanted to challenge it. And I did challenge it. And I did a pretty damn good job, if I do say so myself. I found out that there's basically three main proofs of the Big Bang. There's the atomic composition, the chemistry of the universe. It's basically all hydrogen and helium. There's lots and lots of other elements, obviously. Carbon and oxygen and so forth. But by volume, it's virtually all hydrogen and helium. The rest is like a rounding error. And that's credited as a prediction of the Big Bang, except it's not. That was a prediction created by Fred Hoyle for his steady state theory, and the Big Bang model just copied and pasted it. So if a prediction doesn't distinguish between models, it's not really a very good prediction. So cross that one off. The second thing is the redshift of the distant galaxies. That's interpreted by Big Bang to be the galaxies are all racing away from us at very high speed, which, if you reverse the direction of time, means they all came from the same place and expanded outward. But I didn't like that one either, because we were assuming that the redshift was due to the recessional velocity, but we didn't actually know. It could have been any number of things causing a redshift. And the fact we didn't know meant, to me, we couldn't count it as proof, because it wasn't definitely that thing that we assumed it was. And the third, the actual real prediction of the Big Bang, was the cosmic microwave background radiation. And that one took a little bit more work, but I got to the heart of it. Big Bang, of course, predicted that there would be an echo radiation of the last scattering when matter finally formed stable atoms with a nucleus and an electron that was bound to it so that photons could propagate freely through the universe. Big Bang did predict that, and it was detected. But the bitch of it is that the CMB that we happen to detect happens to be exactly the right temperature that it's indistinguishable from a background blackbody radiation, which is to say, there is dust in space. When that dust gets exposed to sunlight or starlight or whatever, it'll heat up a little bit, and then because space is cold, it'll radiate a little bit of that out. And it just so happens that all the dust in space radiates at exactly the same temperature as the CMB. So we don't know the CMB is the light of the last scattering, or it's just the fact that there's dust in space. But then, what convinced me finally was the Hubble telescope came online and it was able to observe even more distant galaxies and the supernovas in the even more distant galaxies. And there's a fun thing about Type 1a supernovas, the big bright supernovas that are brighter than whole galaxies. They have a definite light curve to them. It's more complex than this, but for the sake of argument, let's say they're really bright for 1 week and then they get dim over the next week and then they're gone. So we know that they take 2 weeks. Again, not how it actually works, just keeping it simple for the description. These very distant galaxies, they'd stay bright for 2 weeks and then they'd get dim for 2 weeks. And the even more distant ones, they'd stay bright for 3 weeks and then they'd get dim for 3 weeks. And there is no other way to describe that other than time dilation. The what general relativity predicted, stuff moving at very, very high speed relative to our point of view, seems to be moving much more slowly through time. That's all that, there's nothing else that can describe why that happens. So I was like, okay, the fucking things are moving. I give up. You convinced me at last, you know?
So you gave in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good, though. There's nothing wrong with challenging things, and there's nothing wrong with also accepting, well, I guess your evidence is better than mine. But it doesn't
Yeah.
mean things can't change in the future, but we can only deal with what we know right now. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we're kind of limited there.
It's true. But yeah, I'm kind of glad. I mean, I put in way too much work, but instead of like with most science, we just say, I don't know. Let's look up what the scientists say. I was actively skeptical of that one, and it still managed to withstand my scrutiny.
So did you get into any science degrees then, or
Mm, again, I
no?
ran out of student loan money. I wanted to complete a physics program, but there weren't really physics jobs in my area. There's a nuclear power plant in the next town over, but they don't actually need nuclear physicists. They need nuclear technicians, which is not the same thing at all. And so there isn't really anything to do with a physics degree around here. And unfortunately, moving is kind of off the table because my kids refuse to. They want to stay near their grandma. So I'm kind of stuck in place for the time being. So I ended up starting a law program instead because there is room for laws, and injustice has always been a thing that I'm very, very passionate about. Unfairness, injustice, it's a spectrum people thing, I think. Learning rules, and then when seeing people break those rules or people being treated unfairly by those rules, you just want to do something about it. You're like, that's not right. And things are worse in other parts of the country, but frankly, the lawyers around here kind of suck. So I was like, okay, okay. I'd been known for arguing. I was in debate club in high school. So a lot of people thought I'd be a lawyer anyway. So I'm like, fuck it, let's go be a lawyer. I finished my pre-law program, and then I ran out of money. So I have a bachelor's in criminal justice administration, and yeah, turns
But
out
see,
law
there
school is really expensive.
there again, that's a problem. That somebody out there that maybe wants to do whatever doesn't have the money or runs out of money to pursue something, and we could be holding back somebody that has, who knows, the next great invention, the next great cure, or whatever, just because of
Mm-hmm.
the matter of money. Which why did education become such a commodity?
Yeah, a number of people have mentioned. I forget who did the quote properly, but it goes something along the lines of, "We have no idea how many Einsteins and Louis Pasteurs have lived their entire lives tending cornfields and working in sweatshops, and still are today. We're holding back so much of our potential as a species with this ridiculous concept of you have to earn your way to an education, or you have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, or whatever ridiculous nonsense. It's just the denial of education of people based on economic means is really dumb.
I agree. I was a Bernie fan, and I loved listening to Bernie talking the same thing, that why don't we send kids to school for so many years, and then we say, okay, that's it, no more,
Mm.
unless you start, going into debt.
Yeah, yeah. You're
It's
taught
unfortunate.
exactly enough to be a cog in the machine at the factories that don't even frickin' exist anymore. Just learn how to push a button and pull a lever all day, and don't complain, don't ask questions, and do as you're told. That's the entire point of our educational system. That's why so many people have complained over the years about how we'd have so many more creatives, so many more artists, writers, why our movies suck now. Because creativity is crushed out of children in the schooling process, because you're not supposed to think. You're supposed to memorize and do as you're told. Like I said, I get a little passionate about injustice.
I One thing I had a problem with was questioning something and saying, well, that's kind of changed, it was just in the news or something, and the response back would be, well, we're just going to go with what's in the answer guide, without
Hmm.
even saying, well, really, let's pull out a newspaper. What are they, what's the headline? Did they find a new whatever? No, 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 just tune it right out. What's the answer guide say? That was a couple times I heard that was disappointing to hear from a teacher.
Oh yeah, I got in trouble for, well, I got in trouble for asking questions all over the place, but also for posing
You
contradictory
and me
ideas.
too.
Yeah, yeah. I've told the story before, but in second grade I got sent to the principal's office because a teacher tried to teach us that you couldn't subtract 5 from 3. Like if you had 3 apples and someone tried to take 5 apples, that was impossible because you only had 3 apples. And I said, no, that's not impossible. You would just still owe them 2 more apples later. Whenever you get 2 apples, you owe them 2 apples. No, 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 no. Got sent to the office. Turns out negative numbers exist, but that was not how we were. I'm like, why would you teach kids something that was incorrect on purpose to unteach it to them later? It still doesn't make any damn sense to me. All the adult people were like, oh, it's just to keep it simple. It's not. It's keeping it simple is not addressing the concept of negative. Save it for later. Saying it's impossible, actively teaching kids the wrong thing, that's not helpful in any way, shape, or form. You're taking an extra step to make someone else's job harder later. And that kind of shit happened a lot. We did circumferences. We got the string and the ruler, and we were supposed to measure round things and write down what the circumference was. Well, I had happened to make a model of the solar system. I made photocopies of one of those books of all the planets, and then I made 2 copies of each planet, cut them out, pasted them together. So we had a 2-dimensional Jupiter and a 2-dimensional Saturn with the ring all dangling from the classroom ceiling. And I was like, I want to get the circumference on those. But of course, you can't just wrap a string around something that's 2-dimensional. I mean, you could if it were on the floor, you could make it match, but it's hanging on the ceiling. So I'm like, I need to figure something out here. So I measured a coffee cup, and I found that it was I don't know, 7 inches around or whatever. And then I measured it across, and it was 2 inches and some change. And I said, interesting, interesting. And then I measured another, like a bowling ball or something that was around the classroom. And then I measured it across. And TLDR, I found out there was a relationship between the diameter and the circumference, roughly 3.1. So I took the diameter of my two-dimensional Jupiter, multiplied by 3.1, and put that down as the circumference. And the teacher threw a shit fit. You can't just make up numbers. It's impossible to measure. She went on for a good 10 minutes before I was able to explain how the fuck I'd done that measurement. She just would not listen. She was only interested in telling me I was a horrible child for making shit up. But then I explained it. And then I got sent to the principal's office because in my school, apparently spontaneously discovering pi is grounds for punishment. Adventures. Adventures in education.
Oh, that's a good story. That's a good story. So then, okay, so then what happened? Did something else hit you, or did you just one by one, piece by piece, start taking things apart and just discovered maybe you weren't religious? Maybe that wasn't the path.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Is because of the society and the culture around me. I wasn't religious, really religious in any particular way, but there was this underlying assumption that you have to believe in something. Even many of the Christian kids I went to school with said, if you're another religion, that's fine. You know, I have no problem with Jews and Muslims, but everybody believes in something. You just have to find what's right for you. And so that was kind of like the cultural assumption buried in the back as I kept looking and looking, because you have to believe in something, until I finally realized you really don't.
Yeah.
No, you know, how dare the person who discovered pi before me discover pi? Because damn it, I was too late for that. That happened to me a lot.
Um,
I used
how
to play
many
with
how many
magnets.
teachers were giving all them kids a hard time for discovering pi?
I don't know. But I played with magnets a lot. I thought they were nifty, the way they have fields that are different from gravity, and like we can't quite push the two same side ones together, and you can kind of feel the field if you wiggle the magnets around and such. And I was like, you know, this repulsion effect is very powerful. If we were to like set it on the ground and then put something else on top, it'd levitate the thing. It'd create a near frictionless thing. And then if we built a track out of magnets or a roadway or something, and then we just figured out a way to keep the thing moving along this roadway of magnets, like put a rail on it or whatever. So I did get into the gifted program at my school. They did have that, at least. And I brought it to the teacher of the gifted class, and I was like, what do you think about this idea? And she goes, that's a fantastic idea, except it was discovered 20 years ago. Curses, too
You
late
pulled,
again.
you're pulling a Elon.
I'm like, why? How the fuck am I supposed to know? We live in the U.S. We still don't have maglev trains. Come on now.
I sometimes I think Elon read a lot of what was it? Popular Mechanics with the future sections in there, because a
Mm.
lot of his ideas sound just like right out of there. Hopping on rockets from city to city and shooting through the maglev tubes and everything else. And sure, it works great on paper, but in reality, no.
Yeah, I mean, some of it sounds pretty cool, but it not. I don't think it'd be like taking a rocket from like Florida to L.A. Doesn't seem like the most efficient way to do it. You could do it fast, sure, but not very efficient.
Maybe a little too fast for most people as well. That's a lot of G's for the average person to be.
That's true. To
You
do
know,
a low orbital hop, you're looking at somewhere between 6 and 13 Gs, depending on. I mean, you could go even higher, but they tend to try to keep it down when there's squishy humans on board.
I
And to
I
do
want
it
him
in
to
half an
just see.
hour, just.
I want him to just see a big slingshot with a chair on it. And just shoot.
Yeah.
There you go. Shoot your from city to city. Nice soft landing on a big mattress.
Yeah,
It's just
and then a
that's the way some
breeze
of the
catches you
ideas sound.
midway and you miss.
Well, that's not
Curses.
accounted for.
Hmm.
That's not accounted for. It's not in the white paper.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I want to take for a quick minute here and say hi to everybody in chat. Join us. Appreciate everybody out there. We got Doorknob Head. We got Peebo. That's as far as I'm going to go with that. Hey, Peebo. Spooky's here. Good to see you. Logan,
Spooky.
YouTube, Punk. Always good to see you.
Punk and Logan and
Logan. I saw James in there. I see. Look at the trees. My partner, my co-host with Grassman Chronicles. Look at the trees. Always
hmm
good to see you. Bree joining us. Hello, Bree.
Bree buzzes by from time to time.
She does. Always a pleasure to see Bree. Azzo's here. Good to see you. Appreciate you. And let me see. I think that's most of them. We got
Oh, Antjer.
Big Bad Mama.
Oh yeah, BBM.
Colassia's here. All right. Great to see everybody. Scroll up here. Wow, there's a lot of comments. Everybody saying hey and hi. Okay, yeah. All right, I'm back to the beginning. Let me get caught back up here. Yeah, and Jur. Good to see Aunt Jur. All right.
Yeah, bunch of friends.
So, let me see. Yeah, here we go. That's what I always think too, Spook. Yeah, that's it. Every time I hear about the tube and shooting people around the country, and I was a little disappointed that Virgin got in on it too. They're trying to run some tests on a tube to it. I'm like,
Could
I
just
didn't
build a
think,
damn high speed train already.
yeah, I didn't think Virgin was that far out there, but I guess they are. So
And Richard Branson fella, he wants to be as crazy as Elon. It's hard, but he's trying.
it's that's popular mechanics. Yeah, that's they would have that stuff in there, and I sometimes I think he literally read something out of Popular Mechanics before he walked on stage for a TED talk or whatever. Yeah, well, we do have maglev, and the technology is there, but it's for only for certain things. You just can't use it just for anything. That's just like anything else. It's always limited to certain things. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I once I did learn that it had already been developed in Asia, Japan, if not China. I started looking into their blueprints and whatnot, and it turns out you can't just have north-facing magnets against north-facing magnets the whole way. You have to actually switch the polarity, otherwise it'll just float there, and someone has to get out and push. And even without friction, it's still a lot of inertia. And then stopping it would be even harder. So they use a polarity reversal thing to pull the train forward and then push the train from behind. And meanwhile, it just levitates in the middle. But then you still have to keep it on the track, and it's just there's a lot of complications into making it practical.
and then to put it out in the weather and the elements and the snow and the ice and the animals chewing on it and the sun beating down on it and
Oh
things just
yeah,
kind of
it's
it's a lot tougher when it gets out in the real world too.
because it depends on active electricity, and if a raccoon chews the wrong power line, then a plate goes down, and you think a derailment looks bad when that happens to a maglev train. They call it depiesting because the track they call it a pieced, and it's a mess. Now a single thing you might be able to coast over, but it yeah, it's a bad time.
YouTube Punk says you look like a young Matt Dillahunty.
Hmm. I don't know about that. I mean, got
Maybe,
a
maybe the
goatee.
yeah the
Yeah.
facial hair there.
I've Matt has a brother named Brad who's occasionally in his chats, but I've never seen a picture of Brad. I wonder if I resemble Brad at all.
Oh, I got and Mike is here too. Almost missed.
Aha.
Yeah, it's almost snuck by there. Good to see you, Mike. I was on with Mike earlier today. We had a nice chit chat. Stephanie was on with us too. We had a good discussion.
Oh yeah, over on Speed's channel.
Always like being over at Answers in Atheism. Everybody's saying hello, 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 hello. I think that's about it.
We have a friendly bunch.
All right. So get to the second half. We like to get to when you endeavored to pursue to get a channel and debates and what brought that about.
Well, weirdly, because I was involved in community theater and all this other stuff, I run a Comic Con in Watertown. I don't have a problem being on camera, being in front of people. That's not an issue. But I am a little bit sensitive about my body. I mean, for one thing, I'm a non binary person, and I look awfully damn masculine. So that feels a little weird. Although this beard is pretty amazing, if I do say so myself. Also, I'm really sensitive about a couple areas of my appearance, my teeth in particular. And I do appreciate the hell out of all you people never fucking mentioning it because I'm really sensitive about that.
I got
But
I got a mouthful of crowns and I got to go get another one on the 24th, I think. I
fun.
feel yeah, I just that's but I try not to complain because if you're going to have a health problem, at least it's something they can fix. And
Yeah,
worst comes to
in
worst,
here in the
you can
U.S.
get you can get some, dentures or implants or at least you have some teeth. That it's something
In
you can get
theory,
fixed. Yeah.
yeah, if you have the insurance for it.
But versus, so many people with, serious health issues and everything, I just try not to complain about getting my teeth fixed. So that's just kind of how I look at it. So,
Yeah, because not all of us can. I need to get rich first, basically.
well, my brother and I both had really terrible teeth, right? Baby teeth were terrible. And they think it's because my mom had some kind of calcium issues when she was pregnant, and maybe it came out in our teeth or something. But my brother and I both, oh man, always at the dentist, always at the dentist. But otherwise, neither one of us really had other health issues. So, it's like, things that you can't replace and you can't cure. At least there is, not everybody can afford it, as you pointed out. And some of the stuff, even with insurance, some of the things they don't cover. So they'll cover the crown, but they won't cover getting a post put in if you don't have nothing to put the crown on. So you still run into a lot of costs. But I just try to look at it at least. George Washington had wooden teeth, right? So it is something that possibly is fixable. So
Yeah, it could be worse anyway. uh, but like I said, it depends on insurance and money and things, which is it. Whenever I talk to somebody who's from any other developed country, they're like, why is America like this? Or is the U.S. trying to kill its citizens? And I'm like, I think they are. Yes, actually. Well, the poor ones anyway.
well, somebody was pointing it out that why do we have health insurance, dental insurance, and vision insurance? Why are those other things not included? It's
Yeah, they're
they
they're
they
they're
they
they're not part of
separated
health
on
apparently.
they separated on purpose. Yeah.
Hmm.
So then you getting back to your endeavors here. Wasn't too long ago. There wasn't a whole lot of Ember videos up,
That's true.
and
I
a couple
started
people
in
said, "Yeah,
December.
did you see this Ember?" And I said, "Yeah." I went over and looked, and he had like 100 subscribers or something, And I was like, "Ah, yeah," A couple other people, "Ah, yeah, go check out Ember." And then I went back like 2 days or 3 days later, and you had 1,000 subs and 800 videos up. So
If only it were that fast.
you got you got busy. So obviously you've got some things to get off of your mind then, huh?
Oh, well, I mean, that's me. I've always got shit to say.
And you got into doing some debates too. What'd
Mhm.
you think about that?
Pluses and minuses. They're fun, but I mean, there's been some criticism of that particular channel, partly because they just don't screen their debaters. Like there was a infamously bad debate a couple of weeks ago. I forget what the topic was, but the obviously factually correct side just wasn't supported. The people on that side just didn't know how to debate. They dropped the ball. And so the intellectually harmful and potentially societally damaging side seemed to win that debate. And that's sometimes a problem because it can make things like flat earth, Nazism, any number of horrible things seem reasonable because they could win a debate if they're up against bad debaters. It doesn't prove any particular topic, it proves how good you are at debate. But if you bear it in mind as an intellectual exercise and disregard that the chat is a flaming pile of crap, it can be very fun. I've only done a couple over there so far. I'll probably end up doing more eventually, but c'est la vie. But yeah, they were both pretty interesting.
Have you been on SFT yet?
No, I've
No.
had the opportunity, but I'm very, very hesitant because there's so much dishonesty and grift and I mean corruption for lack of a better word that I don't want to like bring eyeballs to that channel. I don't want to give them views. I don't want to help them in any way. That said, I did find out that the main host wrote a book with Matt Naylor, Matt Powell, and a few other people. And so I did end up giving them a little bit of money because I simply had to have a copy of that book so I can review it. That should be fun.
Yeah. Mike at Answers in Atheism was just bought a couple books from Ken Ham, which you don't like to do, but he just had to see what a couple of these books had to say. So sometimes you just got to do what you got to do, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, at first I was just gonna laugh it off and ignore it because on Amazon they give you the preview of certain number of pages, and I was scrolling through and I was like, I'll just do a review on just these couple visible pages, but like the first infographic I came across, they try to explain why dinosaurs are all down low and all the modern species are all up high by saying the bones move. The fossilized bones get up and walk through the geological layers just to fuck with us. I'm like, okay, I need to destroy this.
That's that's my thing too. I have some notes, and there's certain things I wanted to cover, and I've already done that in a couple of my videos where there were just things I just wanted to put in a video, and there you go. You want to know my position or what I think about YEC or whatever? There it is. Got it in my video. And other
Yeah,
times, something
just
just
throw it
pops
out
up
there.
in your feed, and you're like, "What did they just say?" And I grab my paper and my pencil. I'm like, "What's this?" And I start making notes. What? And then next thing you know, you got a video up.
Yeah, yeah, sometimes it happens. Oh, Aunt Jur, unfortunately, this particular video, or not video, book, it's a self-published book available only through print on demand through Amazon. So I'm covering myself with the I need to be over here. I keep moving that thing around and I never know where it's going to pop up. But yeah, libraries don't have it because the only way a library would get it was if Donnie and the others bought a bunch of copies themselves and then sent them to the libraries. Yeah, it's not a normally produced actual published book. It's self-published, but yeah.
And I see Maya's in the chat too. Hello, Maya. Always good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. So, doing your debates, what did you learn doing them? You want to do more of them? Would you do it differently?
Oh yeah, like I
Uh,
said, they're fun to do. You can't take them very seriously. Like I think the fact that that particular channel has a flat Earth versus globe debate at least twice a month, sometimes once a week, it kind of shows that nothing is ever decisively settled. It's just people arguing because it's fun to argue. So,
do
with
you
that in context, it can be fun.
do you like watching debates?
It depends if the debaters are good or if the topic is interesting. Then certainly, if it's random people, I'll watch it if there's nothing else on. But I'm not really drawn over there. Likewise, if it's just a really dumb topic, like our virus is made of DNA or something that's like, yes, okay, we're done, move along. But yeah, sometimes. I do occasionally like to watch Matt Dillahunty, Aaron Ra, a few others just dismantle someone's very, very stupid ideas. I also kind of despise Daniel Hakikachu, the Muslim not a skeptic. So it depends on the debate. After the last debate con where he argued that marrying 6-year-olds and sleeping with them is not only morally okay, it's a moral duty. I intellectually disliked him before because he is such a bad thinker who promotes himself as being this great skeptic minded, science focused individual. And he is very much not. He got fooled by a cartoon, but that's a whole other thing. But after that, now he's just a deplorable, disgusting person. So, mixed thoughts on that. I don't want to support his appearances, but I also like to see him get knocked down. You know.
And well, that's the thing. There's been discussions between different channels on if you should have certain people, if you should even mention certain people, if you should be reviewing certain people's videos. And it's always everybody's got to make their own decision on it. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
is it? Do you really think it's going to be worthwhile to go on a certain channel to do a debate, even if it means maybe supporting that channel in some way? I guess you just have to weigh the options, and that's what a lot of people do. So,
Oh yeah, yeah, it's true. I don't fault any of our friends who do go over to SFTs to debate because, I mean, there's a lot of people who just want to kick Kent Hovind, and I certainly can respect that. And the only place you're going to do that is at SFT. So you got to go where the Kent is if you want to kick him.
and that that needs to be done, and let them do it because I don't think I could do it. I just not listening to him for so many years. I would just say, "Shut up." I mean, I don't even want to hear it again. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll let them do it. And I tell people I've been invited to, well, why don't you go on? Why don't you go? No, it's not my thing. I'm happy to talk about things like this. We could have a nice discussion. We can have a back and forth. We can disagree, but I can't do it with those types of situations. Not
Yeah, I mean, I might consider it on like maybe not Kent himself because Kent really needs to just go away and people stop paying attention to him. But like some of the other people like McQueen that they have on from time to time, a few of the other creationy blokes, I might take them on. on a neutral platform rather than one that's heavily weighted in the creationist favor, particularly with that redefined living critter who is just the dumbest motherfucker you've ever seen, and he's so full of hate and fallacies and nonsense. I I
He makes
watched.
he makes a great doorpost, doesn't
He sure does. Like, oh my god, he's the worst. I watched the one view that SFT ever got out of me was one of the early times Kent was on there, and Amy Newman and Andrew Coming and James W. and a few of the others, Atheist Junior, all went in. Grayson from Base Theory all got together and ganged up on Kent, and collectively they went through his script point by point and made him admit every single thing that he was wrong about. And when he finally got to the very end, Amy says something along the lines of, okay, we have dismantled every single one of your points. Can you now admit that evolution isn't a fucking religion and in fact seems to be based on the best knowledge that we all have? And he just kind of like, you could see sparks shooting out of his ears for a second, and then he
he?
reset and went right to the beginning as if none of the previous conversation had happened. He just started right over, like a record on repeat. And he goes, well, no, evolution is a religion, and you want to teach it in schools, and there's no evidence for a geological column, and buy my DVDs. And I'm just like, this is too good. This is just
They've
great.
got it. They've got it down pat. And when I had Doc Dino over and we were reviewing some Ken Ham, I had two videos and I was playing clips, and these videos were made about 10 years apart or whatever it was, almost word for word.
Mm-hmm.
They do not change, and they know it. It's so burned in that they're just never going to stop.
Yeah, because it sells. That's what brings in the money. And I haven't looked up how much
Doc,
Ken Ham is worth, but considering, Kent, after he lost everything, went to jail, recently got out, he's got 4 million in the bank. His son Eric, who stole his empire, has 14 million. Apparently, Uncle Bobby from Gin and Truth tells me that he looked up Frank Turek. That guy's got 6 million. Like, of course they're going to keep lying and just keep
I
repeating the script
I know the
because they
Crosswater,
get paid.
yeah, the Crosswater Canyon Group had 100 million in assets, and that was years ago when I looked at it.
Woo.
And that's just one group where he keeps all his like construction equipment, all that kind of assets tucked away. And then when I'm talking with Dan, all these years Ken's talking about, I guess all he can afford is third or fourth class flying with, he's always talking about being jam packed, in the airplanes and being treated
Mm.
like baggage and everything. Turns out he's a partner in a private jet. And it's like,
Uh-huh.
hmm, really? Then I gotta, and everybody has, unless you can afford first class, or everybody's been there, flying is, it's a little packed, but you do it for the convenience, right? You're going to be there pretty soon. Everybody squash in for a few minutes and we'll be there, right? So you have a little sympathy. And it turns out, well, wait a minute, you got a private jet and you're crying. And so
Well, they have to
I
look
don't think those
humble
stories are
and to
true
keep the
either.
checks coming in.
Yeah, I don't think those
Like,
stories are true. Yeah, he's not flying and jam packed in with everybody else. No, 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 no.
yeah, like Eric Hovind, his Creation Today Ministries just launched their fall fundraiser, and they're hoping to raise $6,000 just to pay the bills and keep the ministry going. Meanwhile, this mofo's out here every presentation he does live in a church that's supposed to be just for the people there. He does a good 15 minutes of the presentation talking about how big and beautiful his daughter's wedding was. He paid for everything, and it's, $250,000 easy. Like giant pavilion with actual crystal chandeliers and huge wedding party and it's just so much, so much. He's like, oh yeah, it was so expensive, and I'm like, and you're trying to raise $6,000? Okay, I believe you. And they all
Well,
do that shit. Kent is
I
is crying over on his new channel about how they need a new Jeep and the backhoe broke a tread and he's got 4 million in the bank.
I know Ken Ham's salary is like $250,000 a year. That's what he pays himself. That doesn't count anything else, but that's just his salary as CEO or whatever he calls himself, president or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably more than enough, especially since he doesn't actually have any bills. Like the organization can buy like the Jehovah's Witnesses do. The church buys the house and he just gets to live there. And the church
That's
buys all the fancy equipment for video production and movie theatrics and shit, and he just has to use it, you know?
that's the thing. If either of his the museum or the Ark Park were to go under, he walks away.
Hmm.
It's not his money. He gets the property for a song from the county, so they'll just take it back and be stuck with it and have to clean up his mess. Yeah, he's free and clear. And uh, Dr. Joel, yeah, I think was covering that there's deep pockets that seem to be giving him a lot of money just to keep rolling money through, and he just keeps doing projects, and it's just one more way for the rich to just hide money, I guess.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's another big thing. It's I don't know if it's bigger than the people they're fleecing, but it does certainly happen. Like
He's
Greg
putting up
Greg
a
Locke
hotel.
comes to mind.
Yeah, Ken Am's putting up a hotel now too,
That makes sense because they
and
do get
that's not
a
cheap.
ridiculous number of people through those exhibits they've got, which
But
is
again,
it's very disturbing, but they do.
he he promised that town, well, the people will stop in there to eat and all this stuff, and then he put in a big restaurant. And then it's like, well, they'll still stop by in your little town and have ice cream or something. And so he put in a bunch of concession stands so you can get ice cream. They said, well, they'll use your hotels and everything. And he's putting up his own hotel. And it's like, I don't think anybody's getting anything money but that Ken Ham does.
No, he's not leaving a dime on the table if he can help
Nope.
it.
So covering the videos, then who are some of your favorites to cover then?
Oh well, I try to keep it in rotation, but there are a few who pop back up from time to time. Eric Hovind actually, I did a big long series about him right after my Comic Con wrapped back in June, but he's back on my radar again because he's been wandering around the various social medias, literally challenging people to take on his newest video, and I'm like, well, if you ask for it. So he'll be back again soon. But I do try to keep it in rotation. But there's a few people I check on again now and then. I can't think of the name of the dude. Reverend David something. He's just a hate preacher. I check in on him now and then, see if he's got anything interesting to review. Always keep an eye on AIG, Discovery Institute. You know, as many of the thingies as I can. I do try to stay away from a few, like Matt Powell, just because he's so hateful and so fucking dumb. But every now and then there's something worth being funny over. So I don't know. It varies. I try to keep it fresh.
We got None stopping through. Good to see you, None.
Howdy none.
And so, making videos, what advice would you give somebody that was in thinking, maybe I'll make some videos about all these things I got on my mind? What advice would you have for an up and coming YouTuber?
Um, well, the two most important things I think are just do it. Go out and do it. Suck at it. The first few you're not gonna everybody starts out bad. You don't know what the hell you're doing. That's okay. The first few you do are the worst ones you will ever do. Everything is also a rehearsal for the next thing you do, and they'll get better and better and better. So, just start doing them. And the second is network. Network, network, network. It's arguably more important than content because every single channel that's made it big on YouTube has done so by working with and getting shout outs from and getting featured on much bigger channels. So, network. I do believe a community can collectively build themselves up, much like our community does. How we talk about each other and we feature things and so on and so forth, and that helps a lot. But I the thing that really sticks in my mind was John from the Skeptic was just over on Brentley's channel a couple of days ago, and I was surprised to see him there. I'm like, hey, yay, it's a skeptic. It's fantastic. And Brentley asked him, how did you become so successful? And, I'd been thinking, because, I mean, I love the skeptic's content. He's funny. He's got great graphics going on. He's got his thing down, least of the rainbow giraffe and the pattern of his segments. He's got it dialed in. But he says, no, that's not it. That almost doesn't matter. I mean, being entertaining, definitely a plus because nobody's going to watch you if you're not. But what really got him going was, he started it because he was moving from England to a very religious place and he needed an outlet for his atheism. And he just started doing it for fun, messing with people, messing with, horrible people, as one does. And people started liking his stuff, and after a few months he got 100 subscribers, hooray! And then after a few more months he got 200 subscribers, hooray! And he wasn't taking it super seriously. And then Simon Dan went on vacation and asked him to cover one of his videos during the vacation, and he did. And his subscriber count jumped to 2,000 and has just been escalating ever since. So that's his thing. It's being good is a necessary thing, but to gain success, you have to have the connections because you can be good and you will never, ever, ever like hit, 300,000 or whatever the fuck Simon Dan's at now without the cross community thing, reaching new audiences, all that sort of stuff. So that's my whole thing. Do it. Get better as you go, but don't hesitate. Don't wait until I have it all dialed in. Just get better at it as you go, but also network. Don't neglect your community. Don't try to just turtle down and only make your video and never talk to anyone because that'll hold you back more than anything.
I agree. I was working on my green screen today. You see, look at that. I'm not going all blah, 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 and maybe a little on my shirt there, but as long as I don't move, I got it dialed in pretty good. So yeah, the first couple of times I was, it was all fuzzy and half of it was all, and you just got to work with it. You got to get your lighting just right. It's really important to have your light shining just right, or your green screen won't work. It don't make no sense to me. It don't make no sense to me. It's like, wait a minute, aren't you drowning it out? No. Make sure you got some good lighting going right on your green screen. Makes all the difference. Just little things like that. People forget
the green screen needs its own light. This isn't a green screen because various reasons. I like green or I like gray because it'll take any kind of color. If I put a colored light on it, it'll be that color. But for green screen, you have to light it. It will not work without its own lights, and everybody forgets that. Jimmy Snow himself was amused the other day. He took that big ass TV he uses for a background and he just set it to green, and he was like, "Oh, a self-illuminated green screen. This works great." Yes, that's how that works.
So, before we wrap things up here, in case we missed anything, I've got a few questions here for you, Ember.
Alrighty.
For a little fun.
Don't forget to hit your subscribe button over here, because
that's right.
Subscribe, share, spread it around. Maybe not this video because I'm cringy as fuck, but pick your favorite video and share that.
I have 59 videos. I think I'm up to now, so I'm getting there. I got a selection, so you can shop around, look around.
Yeah, Yeah, share some of the Grassman ones. Those are fun. Or Dr. Dino, if you wanna knock on Ken Ham some more, because that is really cool how you show. Doc couldn't even tell. It was almost like you could play a game with him. Like, is this modern Ken or 10 year ago Ken? And you just can't
Yeah.
tell.
Yeah, because he asked me, "Are these actually?" And I said, "Yeah, they're like a decade apart." And wow, it's really hard to. I mean, the inflections, the jokes, everything is just so uh, burned in the brain. The shtick is down so pat. It's just amazing that he probably dreams in the middle of the night, and his wife probably hears him saying it. Billions of dead things laying in there. Rock there is all my water. I'll do.
Well, I mean, once you memorize your script, you don't want to have to change your script and rememorize it.
Yeah, just in case we missed anything, I thought we have a little fun here with a 20 questions, kind of a rapid fire thing here. You don't have to think too much or too hard, and I don't expect you to because that takes all the fun out of it.
Okay,
So
well, we'll see what we can do. No promises,
we're
though.
we're gonna throw these at you, and hey, if you want to play along in the chat there, throw your answers into. It's all good, and then we'll wrap things up here and do our closings. And let me pull this up here. Okay, are we ready? All right.
Sure.
Number one, what's your favorite beverage?
Coffee.
Number two, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you choose?
Ireland.
Number three, do you have any unusual talents or skills?
Well, define unusual.
That's on you. You just got to answer
um,
the question.
Off the top of my head, I've had a double jointed thumb since I was little. Now, of course, you always have these. When you have something like that, you always have it. I made it to the age of 35 before I discovered I also have a double jointed pinky because my oldest was playing the violin and kept popping their pinky back and it was screwing up how they were holding the bow. And they complained about it to me in the car, like, curse you for giving me these crazy genetics. And I was like, what are you talking about? They showed me, and so I went, huh? What do you know? I didn't know that. 35 years, I didn't know that about myself.
So you got a couple bendy fingers.
Hmm.
Okay. Number four, what three things would you want to have with you if you were stranded on a deserted island?
Um, Food, coffee, and hmm. My inclination is to say smokes, but I'm really It'd have to be my toothpicks. I think I could probably. I would be very unhappy if I had to go on just my toothpicks because they're not quite enough to replace cigarettes. But we're working on that. But yeah, I need something for that stupid. Don't ever get addicted to something, folks. Having a chemical rule your life sucks.
Number five, what kind of cuisine do you like?
Lots of things. Probably most of seafood. Fish I'm kind of on, but the weird stuff, calamari, lobster, crab. Okay, those aren't that weird, but they're more more than just plain old fish. But some fish are nice. Sashimi's fantastic. As far as land stuff, probably my favorite overall dish is stroganoff.
Number six, have you purchased any products from an infomercial?
Probably. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I'm sure something at some point made me go, that's really dumb and probably won't work, but it looks like fun.
Do you have any tattoo? Number seven, do you have any tattoos?
I do. I've got everybody's already seen this one because I'm always. Let me turn it so we can see. There we go. Because I'm always flailing my arms wildly. It's a take what you can. It has multiple meanings. It's not just a reference to the pirate movies, but it did lead to an interesting story with the Amish one time. But that's a whole other thing. I've got a lightning bolt over here that actually relates to that story I was telling earlier about the finding the original gods and how the sky god was all about helping humanity discover more knowledge and such. That's kind of where that comes from. And then I've got a full-on pentagram, pentacle actually, on my back that I forget is there half the time because it's on my back, but it's pretty cool. I'd like more, but I never seem to have both the time and the money at the same moment.
Number 8. How do you think your last boss would describe you?
I'm not really sure. Shortly before I left my last job, I did an employee review with that boss, and he sat down and he said, "Okay, so the company gives me like 1 through 5 and all these different categories to rate your performance. You did okay. You got a 4 in everything." And I'm like, "Really?" Because I was the kind of it's a LTL truck driving. Like we wouldn't leave New York State usually, but if I needed to go 3 hours out of my way to make a stop, I freaking did it. I was that kind of crazy person. And I was like, why 4? And he's like, oh, because 5 is perfect, which means only God gets a 5. That spot is reserved for him. I'm like, you motherfucker. I'm like, if you're going to be that way about it, imagine there's a 6 because God doesn't work here. So there's a 6 box that is they didn't bother to put on the form because God doesn't work here, since he's the only one who could get the 6. So you have to evaluate the employees you have. I'm like, your religion is fucking up my job, you son of a bitch. You know? Get the fuck out of here. But I guess he'd probably say I was a hard worker or something. I mean, I literally never called in except when I was dying of COVID.
Fair enough. Let's see. That was all right. Number 9. If you could pick one superpower, what would it be and why?
I've thought about that a time or two, and I've had different answers over the years. To pick just one, though, I think probably Wolverine's regeneration, because not dying is sort of a whole theme with me. Try not to die is basically my family slogan. And also, being able to heal quickly from virtually anything would be mighty damn handy. And also being the next best thing to immortal would be kind of cool too.
Good answer. Number 10. What's something you've learned recently?
Shoot, I just learned something. The first president photographed was John Quincy Adams. He lived long enough for daguerreotypes to be a thing. And he was not a sitting president at the time. It was 1843. But he was the first president to be photographed.
We were talking about this earlier. Everybody knows what my favorite color is. So, Ember, what's your favorite color?
Purple, of course. All my things.
I love my orange. I had orange on my chair, orange here, and orange there, and orange everywhere. So,
Yeah.
number 12. Have you ever worn socks with sandals?
No, I've never been super religious, but that is a sin. An
Number
abomination before the Lord.
there's two kinds of folks, aren't there?
Next, you'll ask me about pineapple on pizza, and we're just gonna,
Close. Let's see. Number 13. What was the last movie you saw, and how was it?
The last movie I saw. I don't see movies a whole lot. Pretty much only when I bring the kids to the drive-in, because the drive-in is awesome. Stars, movies, burgers, all the. I fucking love it. The first movie playing that night was Barbie, but there was another movie after that, and it wasn't super memorable because I cannot recall what that movie was. But that was the last movie I saw because it was the second movie that night. Oh wait, no, I do remember. It was the Flash movie with alternate universe Batman. Yeah, like I said, not that
Not
memorable.
memorable though. Okay. Do you have any pets?
Personally, no, not at the moment. My housemates have two dogs and three cats. Um, I'm pretty sure that's it, unless you want to count one of their cousins, nephew. Yes, pet nephew. Yep. But yeah, it's not that big a house. One dog is a Great Dane. It's a little
Hmm.
full of mammals as is.
Let's see. Number 15. If you could have dinner with anyone from the past or present, who would it be and why?
Hmm. Hmm. Not to get too deep on it, because I could really go deep and ponder that one. So just off the top of my head, um, probably Aristotle, because that dude had so many ideas, and half of them were way the fuck out there. But he wasn't. He did say, "Don't ever." Like argument to authority, as we call it today. Don't ever, believe something just because Aristotle said it, because Aristotle can be wrong too. And to his credit on that one. But I had a teacher once say that point out that Aristotle wasn't right about everything. He thought that everything in the universe made noise, even if we couldn't hear it. It all made noise, even the planets, music of the spheres, he called it. And the teacher said, so shows what he knows because sound can't travel through space. And I'm like, shows what you know. Yeah, sound can't travel through space, but that doesn't mean the planets aren't vibrating, which is a thing we now know all matter above absolute zero does. They definitely are making a noise. It just doesn't cross the vacuum to us. So, fuck off. So, yeah, Aristotle had some off the wall ideas. It'd be fun to discuss those and some of the things we know today to see what he would make of them.
Number 16. What's one piece of advice you'll never forget?
Don't date that person. So, the last person I dated, I mean, obviously, she's a wonderful person. A lot of pluses about her. But we had dated before, and we split up for a very stupid reason. And so when I told my friend, she came back. She was like, "Can we try again?" And I'm like, "I generally don't because." Whatever reason you broke up before, if something hasn't changed, you're just gonna break up again, you know? But she made her case. Like, she's like, I really want to try, and this and this is different. And I'm like, well, I'm not seeing anybody else. So I really, really liked her. But all my friends were like, don't do it, don't do it. It's gonna end badly. Big surprise. Spoiler alert. It ended badly. I mean, not super badly. We're still friends, but it hurt a lot more than I expected it to.
Relationships are always tough. It's one of those things in life for you kids
Mm.
out there. It's coming. And as you mentioned earlier, what toppings do you like on your pizza?
I like weird pizza. I mean, I can have a cheese. A cheese is just fine and dandy, but I like weird pizza, like the green peppers and the red peppers and the sausages and onions, all kinds of crazy stuff. It's the best. Yeah. Banana
Yeah,
peppers.
yeah. My wife likes all the peppers and everything all over hers too. Number 18. What's your spirit animal?
That's a tough one. I guess um, just for consistency's sake, I have to say the butterfly because where did I put it? Where did I put? I got to switch screens here and turn my camera back on.
There it
Nil.
goes.
Yep, Nil, the great not God and creator of creator gods. Butterflies had meaning to me several times over the years. There's a lot of animals that have different meaning for me, but yeah, Nil is just kind of like the totem for the channel at the moment. So I kind of yeah.
Let's see. Number 19. We're almost done. What hobby would you get into if time and money weren't an issue?
Hmm. Robots. Building robots. Robots are cool.
That would be fun. That would
Yeah.
be fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And then we're going to wrap it up. Number 20. And this is the most important question. So pay close attention. Everybody in the audience, pay close attention. This is the last one, and it's very important. If any cryptid beastie was proven to be real, would you want it to be a Sasquatch, a Bigfoot, a Grassman, or a Yeti?
Aren't they all kind of the same thing?
That's why the question is very important.
Well, Bigfoot then, because there's a snack named after him.
All well done. All hail Bigfoot.
Yeah. All else being equal, go with the snacks.
And for those that don't know, we have the Grassman show covers cryptids, so we enjoy doing that, and we enjoy a little cryptid humor at the captive desk here too. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cryptids are always fun. My personal favorite is it's one I stole from a Magic the Gathering card, but it just tickles my brain. It's called the Paradoxalog. It's a creature that is only real for people who do not believe in it.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
That is a good one. Well, I hope everyone has learned a few things about Ember, and make sure to check out Ember's channel and Ember's other links too. And again, I put them in the description, so check them out. Go there, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. And before we let you go, Ember, anything coming up? Anything on your
Oh,
mind? Got anything got to
always stuff
say?
coming up.
Go ahead. It's
All right.
the floor is yours. Take us out with whatever's coming up, whatever you got to say. Go ahead. We'll give you a few minutes. The captive desk is captivated.
All right. Well, I mean, I've always got stuff cooking, working on building future projects and so forth. But the stuff that's definitely coming up, that's already scheduled for this week, is tomorrow. There's a regular video of a room rumble style thing. Borrow the concept from Mark Reed. It's like a distilled version of some nonsense that happened over on Amy Newman's a few days ago. That'll be Wednesday, and then I'll be over on Aaron Roz for Blasphemers Bible in the evening. Thursday, I've got Lawrence from Milwaukee Atheists coming over for an Atheist Lives. We're going to talk about his work and trying to spread the word about it and what he's up to and why he cares so much and all that cool stuff. On Friday, Bree and Stephanie Helms will be joining me for a trans person Q&A by popular request. And Saturday, there's the debate review with Mark Reed. That'll be back on my channel this time, and it's part 2 of William Lane Craig versus Sean Carroll, which is my favorite one so far because it's not just a debate review. There's also science. So if you haven't seen part one, that's on Mark Reed's channel, but part two will be on mine this Saturday. Um, yeah, so that's what we've got so far.
Uh, Pragmatic, good to see you. It's all right. You can always get caught up. Appreciate you stopping by. It's always good to see you.
Yeah, always good to see Pragmatic. And yeah, the beautiful thing about videos is I understand. I feel the same way. Live chat is more fun because you get to interact with your friends in the community. But if you do happen to miss something, it's always there for when you do have time to watch it later.
And I appreciate everybody stopping by. I see Sydney stopping by too. Uh, and Pragmatic Doug, and man, let's see, Maya. Always great to see you, and Aunt Jur and Azo and everybody filling up the comments. Appreciate everybody. And yeah, I think everybody pretty much. Let's see. I don't see any complaints. White socks with sandals, or else barefoot.
Yeah, barefoot is I swore by barefoot for the longest time because shoes are actually the worst freaking thing you can put on your feet. That's how you get hammer toe, that's how you get collapsed arches and stepping on Legos kills your feet, whatever. If you go everywhere barefoot, the sole of your foot toughens up and then you can walk across sharp gravel or hot coals or whatever. That's what nature has in mind. It's also good for climbing trees because you can grab better with your toes if they're not like trapped behind a thick sole and all that nonsense. Of course, I've been a truck driver for 10, 13 years, so I've had to wear work boots for so long. Now my feet are squishy like every normal person's, but given the choice, barefoot's definitely the way to go.
Socks with sandals should be a crime.
I actually don't give a fuck about fashion. I mean you can tell. I do try to look fabulous when I can, but I ran really short on time today, so I'm like, I have a shirt on. That'll have to do.
Well, I had this one on. I like to make sure I don't have the same shirt on in all my videos, but I was looking and I was like, I already had this one on and it's a new t-shirt. And yes, I had it on earlier on Mike's stream, but I don't think that really counts. So
No, if it's
not
the
that it
same
doesn't
day,
count
it's fine.
being over there, but yeah, it's so, yeah, the same day, same shirt. And it's a new shirt and it's nice and soft. So it's always pleasant when you get a new t-shirt and it comes out of the wash and you get that first realization if it's going to be one of those soft ones or one of those kind of stiffy ones, And this one is nice and soft, so I'm enjoying my new t-shirt.
Very cool, very cool. But yeah, I get what you mean. There's days when I have like the house to myself, like all the housemates are gone, the pets are quiet, and I have just a chunk of a few hours. So I'll just line up a bunch of videos and I'll review them all at once. But I have to change my shirt in between so that I can post them on different days, and people won't be like, "Did Ember wear that same shirt for a whole week?" No, I recorded them all at the same time.
All these things you never thought of before you sat down in front of a camera. It's like, of course, you could go with a costume like Logic. And then you don't have to worry about it. You just got your outfit on the hanger there and you put it on each time. So there's that approach too, I guess.
Yeah, I actually, early Logic videos, early Viced Rhino, a few others, I think Professor Plink still does, have an animated avatar. And I thought about that too. I was like, I won't even need a damn camera that way. Ha ha ha. No one will have to look at this mug. But it turns out animation takes even longer than the normal video editing does.
And there's again different opinions on that. Some people like to see people, and some people like the interaction, and maybe the animation is a little more standoffish. The Viced Rhino's gone to not doing animation now, so
Yeah, and people generally like it. I actually did do A/B testing on my channel. I'm always testing stuff, testing thumbnails, testing presentation styles. I did one last week that was like TMM's kind of style, where he never shows his face and it's just the text on screen, to see how that did. Mixed results. It's not my highest viewed video, but it's not anywhere near my lowest either. Although apparently I come off as kind of smarmy when my face isn't visible. I sound like extra condescending or sarcastic or something.
Well, TMM will show his face sometimes at the end.
Oh yeah, at the very end to thank patrons. Yeah.
Yeah, and every once in a while he does a live, so you can catch him every once in a while on there
Hmm.
talking. So yeah, but that's great content too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I appreciate your time, Ember. It was a great discussion. I enjoyed some of your stories; they were very hilarious. I hope everybody else appreciates them too. And you had some interesting journeys there and I'm glad we got a chance to talk about it. And it's very enlightening on some of the things you did along your journey. And I always
Oh yeah.
appreciate hearing everybody's. And that's another thing I find out talking to people. We've all had very different journeys. And for anybody
Mm-hmm.
watching, maybe you're on a journey yourself. And Ember and I would like to wish you all the best on your journey.
Yeah. Everybody's on an adventure, and my story isn't the most interesting in the world by far, but I think it's important for the same reason we make atheist content videos, to tell stories, to give people perspectives, and so that some people be like, that resonates with me. That's I see myself in that. So I too know that I can stand up and say something and make a difference in the world. That's the point.
All hail Bigfoot.
Woo!
Well, again, I appreciate your time and I appreciate everybody in the chat. And if you like discussions like these, as Ember was saying to folks earlier, and I concur, hit the subscribe with the little bell down there, and you'll get notified when I do future videos. And if you like it, hit a thumb, drop us a comment if you got something to say. Appreciate it, and always appreciate all the support in the community. And I also want to mention we have an extra special Grassman episode coming up this month. Falls on my birthday. So we're going to have an extra special celebration. And to share the celebration with everybody out there, we're going to give away a Grassman t-shirt. There's only two in the world. Trees has one, and I have one. So you'll be in an elite club with a unique, one-of-a-kind, only 3 in the entire world t-shirt. And we're
Exclusive
going to,
membership.
yeah, you'll be an exclusive club. And we're going to give that away as part of the celebration. We're going to play a little game. We're not going to tell you what it is yet, but we're going to have a little game coming up, and everybody's welcome to join in and play along. And wish you all the best of luck. And I hope somebody really enjoys winning a Grassman t-shirt. And until then, everybody have a good one. I hope you're all safe and well, and we'll see you next time.